let's go to, I'll designate it the lightning round. And I'd like each one of you to kind of share a last point, a key takeaway, or even better yet, what's the one thing you would encourage a board member to do tomorrow or next week, not next year, but short term, that they might not be doing today to better position their boards and their companies for continued success? I'll let anybody pick to start, but
Okay, I'll go. A couple of things come to mind for me. I mean, I think it's really important that the board be keeping its eye on the future, not just at the past. So that means looking at the emerging risks and trends. And, so too often the focus is on the last crisis or the quarter just completed. So, keep your eye on the future. You need to have time to talk about what the future holds and, have management do scenario planning that can help guide your thinking. And then I think, the other really important thing is, I think for all directors, level up your understanding of tech. There needs to be a basic level of fluency in the boardroom. Currently, it's Gen AI. It's not the last technology. So, you need to be aware enough of what the technology means and educated so that you can make, you can ask good questions and help guide the strategy. And I think the other piece of that is ensuring that management has in place an adequate data governance program. I mean, data is increasingly the lifeblood of Gen AI and of business. And I think that's an area where I get a lot of questions lately. I think all of a sudden people are waking up to how powerful it can be.
Vivek, you were almost first, so what do you second?
I'm sorry.
No, please.
No.
Claudia hit a lot of things that were on my mind. If I had to just pick two words, it'll be balance and learning. And there is just so much noise that occurs in terms of information that is thrown at us today, that balancing all that information into things that matter in the short and long term is incredibly hard. It is so easy to get into whatever the zeitgeist is of the day, and then that becomes the agenda that is driven, and that isn't the role of the board. It isn't the good role of a board, right? So that's one on the balance. And then Claudia hit the learning. Things are changing so fast, which is why we are bombarded with so much information. And if that amount of time spent learning is not adequate, then the questions that have to be asked, just take the Gen AI versus agents versus orchestrators. If you don't have a sense for those, then you are going to ask questions that would lead to effort being spent in the wrong space. So for me, it's balance and learning.
Great, thanks. Travis, take us home.
And so the answer of what boards should be doing is they should hire Vivek and Claudia and Travis, and they can help you solve all your problems. I think the real, in my view, is, look, I advise boards and committees, and I advise management teams and the company, right? But when I'm advising directors themselves, I tell them you have to have a sense of agency. Like, this is your company, management works for you. You are the one that's directly responsible to the investors, to the shareholders. And if there is anything where you do not feel comfortable with your knowledge, if you don't feel comfortable with your information flow, if you don't feel comfortable with the current risk appetite, with the strategy, you have got to raise your hand and actually act upon that in terms of talking to your board chair and then getting the information that you need in order to exercise that agency. I think there are a lot of people that take a passive role. I get it. This is not the 1980s where directors just kind of rubber stamp stuff. That's not the world now. We talk every single year at NACD about how being a director is more and more like a full-time job. That's kind of where it's going. And if you're not in the boardroom, you're talking to management, you're talking to directors. Sometimes you're kind of doing that skip discussion and talking to people below the C-suite, or you're talking to advisors, or you're educating yourself, both on the industry, on technology, and things like that. I see a lot of recommendations on sources to level up technology and Gen AI. I'll say one thing in terms of Gen AI, download to your phone like ChatGPT or Gemini. Do not, I'll just say, consider which country you live in before you download foreign apps onto your phone. But you absolutely should get an actual feel for it, right? It's kind of like somebody teaching you how Facebook worked, but you've never actually used it. You're never going to understand it with a level of fluency to actually be useful. But there are plenty of folks like KPMG and Accenture that do technology trainings as well that I hope people consider.
There's a couple questions in there. We don't have time to kick it over to the panelists, but the questions about how do I, as a director, level up my understanding of AI if you don't come from that background? And I can't find the specific post, but it's on LinkedIn. That's not a paid political announcement, but it's on LinkedIn. Look for Nora Denzel, Denzel. She posted something that was something like, there's 6 things you ought to do if you're a director and you didn't grow up in AI, which is probably 99.9% of the director community today. One of them is to read the NACD Blue Ribbon Commission that was released last year. Another one is, and I'm starting it, it's called The Coming Wave by Mustafa Seliman. Read that. And the third one, and I'm in the third one, well, the book's the third one. The one that I'm in is, there's a course, 14 hours online that you can do for free that helps you understand AI. I'm on like hour 5, so I'm muddling my way through because it's our responsibility as directors to educate ourselves so we can participate in a conversation and understand what the conversation's about.